Jai Baba. Nothing is real but God. Nothing matters but love for God. God is the only reality. All else that seems real is illusory. God and I are one. Meher Baba. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Thanks to beloved Baba and Jai Baba to all of you. By beloved Baba's grace, we are trying to please him by reading God Speaks, which was one of his wishes for his lovers, that at least we should read God Speaks once in our lifetime. So we are on part 5, which is the planes, and page number 47. We are reading the 5th and the 6th plane. Go ahead.
With greater involution of consciousness of the subtle, conscious human soul on the fourth plane, the consciousness of the subtle, conscious human soul identifies itself with mind of the mental planes and experiences the mental world. The mind of the mental planes has two sections. In the first section, the state of mind is inquiring or reflecting. In this state, mind functions as thoughts, high thoughts, low thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts, material thoughts, spiritual thoughts, and so forth.
Good. See, now we are doing the 5th and the 6th plane. Just to recap, there is the gross world or the gross sphere, and then there is the subtle world or the subtle sphere, in which basically there are 3 planes, the first, the second, and the third. Then there is a 4th plane, which is like a threshold between the subtle world and the mental world. And then there are the 5th and the 6th planes, which are purely in the mental world. So right now we are reading the 5th and the 6th plane. They are in the mental world. Although they are in the domain of the mind, they have very distinct functions that on the 5th plane only concerns with thoughts. Those on the 6th plane only are concerned with feelings. So here, with greater involution of consciousness, we have done, and I keep repeating this, first there is creation, then there is evolution. Evolution stops in the first human form. From the first human form till the point of involution, there is reincarnation, and then there is involution. Involution means treading the inner spiritual path. And that starts from the first plane. First through the third plane are in the subtle world, and then 4th plane, as I said, is like a threshold, and the 5th and the 6th plane are in the mental world. So we are now reading the 5th plane. With greater involution of consciousness of the subtle conscious human soul on the 4th plane, the consciousness of the subtle conscious human soul identifies itself with mind of the mental planes and experiences the mental world. I keep repeating, either a person is in the gross or subtle or mental. He has a physical body. He eats, drinks, sleeps, talks, does everything like a normal human being, but his consciousness is focused on the plane on which he is residing at that point in time. So here a person on the 5th plane is in the mental world. Although he will sit with us, talk with us, whatever it is, for him the gross plane is dead. There is no experience of the gross. Although he seems to be eating, drinking, sleeping, etc., there is no experience of the subtle. That means he has no power. He is not aware of the first, second, third, and 4th planes at all. He considers himself as mind, and that part of mind which is thoughts, which means he can read thoughts, he can manipulate thoughts, he can create thoughts, he can control thoughts, he can do everything with thoughts. So that is the fifth plane. Now, the mind of the mental plane has two sections, as we did just now. In the first section, the state of mind is inquiring and reflecting, or reflecting, thank you, or reflecting. That means thoughts. In this state, mind functions as thoughts: high thoughts, low thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts, material thoughts, spiritual thoughts, and so forth. It also means, to my understanding, that whatever he may be doing at the gross plane, he is not inviting fresh gross samskaras. Neither he is spending, because there is no grossness left. Now, whatever his thoughts are, he is actually accumulating mental impressions by thinking high thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts, etc., etc. Right? So, in whatever domain we are responsible for that. Even I'm just very casually saying, supposing he does something called what we call as a bad act or a sinful act or whatever something, he does not attract samskaras for that, for a simple reason that his grossness is not there, but he will incur mental samskaras connected with the gross act that he has done. So that is the important thing. In the second, you read this? In the second section of the state, the state of mind is impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive would mean capable of being impressed or
Awesome.
sympathetic, right? In this state, mind functions as feelings. In the second state of the mental world, which is the sixth plane, which is also called the peer. The one on the fifth plane is called a wali in Sufi terminology, and a wali is also called a friend of God. On the sixth plane, he is called peer, and his experience is of feeling. That means he sees God in everyone and everything. There's nothing besides God for him. He has a feeling of seeing God in everyone and everything, but he is still not one with God. And that seeing is the last vestige of samskaras, which we call as the spiritual eye, the third eye, the inner eye. Alright? In this state, mind functions as feelings, feelings of sufferings, emotions, feelings of desires, longings, feelings of pangs, separation, and so forth. Baba has said elsewhere, and we all know, that love is a gift from God to man. So that love is always a gift, and it is generally given to a person of this caliber, of a peer or a sixth planer, where he has such longing to become one with God. That love is so powerful that he feels that he cannot sustain himself or live even for one moment without union with God, and yet he has to suffer a long period of time of separation. So Baba somewhere has used that this love is like the experience of the person is like a fish flopping out of water. So you can imagine, and Baba says that this love cannot be created. No amount of spiritual gymnastics, so to speak, can create this love. It is always a gift from God. And when you receive that gift, then that is the final junction for you to jump the valley between the darkness to light, the dream to the awake state, the duality to unity. So he is at the fag end of the journey that way. He just needs a touch of a living perfect master or the avatar who's the eternal living perfect master to go from one stage of duality or non-reality to reality.
When mind of the mental world has distinct dual functions, it is necessary that the experiences in the field of mind, that is, the mental world, must be distinctively of two kinds also. Thus, the mental world has two domains: the domain of the fifth plane of consciousness of thoughts, and the domain of the sixth plane of consciousness of feelings. There's an asterisk. The difference between the involving consciousness of the fifth and sixth planes may be compared to the difference between the angles of vision of a man entering a room, the mental world. On entering the room, if the man looks straight ahead of him, he spontaneously sees God face to face, thereby gaining directly consciousness of the sixth plane. But if his vision happens to focus on one of the corners of the room, then he first gains only the consciousness of the fifth plane.
So here we have seen the distinction between the fifth and the sixth, the thoughts and the feelings. When we say a person is on the fifth plane, he does not control the mind. He only controls that section of the mind to which he belongs. That means either the thoughts or the feelings. So here Baba says, thus the mental world has two domains, the domain of the fifth plane of consciousness of thoughts and the domain of the sixth plane of consciousness of feelings. And here Baba says down below, and we had done this earlier, that when a person goes from the fourth on to the mental world is like a big room which has a door open, and if you are seeing straight, focusing, in short, I interpret it in this way, that if one is very focused on seeing God or becoming one with God, then you do not get mixed up with all the other aspects of spirituality. You are focused, and when you are focused, then you jump from the fourth to the sixth. But if you are not very focused and you are just dilly-dallying, want to see around the room what is happening, then you will first enter the fifth and then you will go to the sixth. So a lesson for us would be, like Baba would always say, that if you want God, then you must want God alone. You can't have God and the material pleasures and all that. So basically that way. In the same way, when we come later on, we'll see that on the fourth plane, use of powers, misuse of powers, and good use, and there also there is this fine tuning that there are people from the fourth plane who may go straight into the sixth plane if they have made good use of their power in the energy, because fourth is in the energy domain. And good use would only mean spiritual use and not materialistic use.
Therefore, the consciousness of the mental conscious human soul on the fifth plane
You read the paragraph.
identifies with the first section of mind only and is conscious of that state of mind which is inquiring or reflecting mind.
That means he is conscious only of that plane, that only of that aspect of the mind which is connected with thoughts.
Thus, this mental conscious human soul of the fifth plane is the creator and master of thoughts and is capable of controlling only the thoughts of all gross and subtle conscious souls.
He has the authority, the power, the wherewithal to control thoughts, to manipulate thoughts, to create thoughts, and do everything that is connected with thoughts, irrespective of where the person is. The fifth planer may be in India, but somebody he wants to control thoughts in America, Australia, New Zealand, he can do that.
This is often misinterpreted as controlling the minds of all gross and subtle conscious souls. He does not control the mind as a whole, but controls only that state of mind which functions as thoughts
As
only.
thoughts only. There's a supplement which will come to that. In other words, see the beauty of it. The person on the fourth plane, who's called the Mahayogi, who is also called Kuber, he has got infinite powers. He can do anything. He can create new universes. That is the power he has. But the moment he goes from the fourth to the fifth, there is no power. He has no power. Because he is not in the domain of energy. He is not in the domain of subtle world. He has now graduated himself into the mental world. So he has no power. And another thing we have to remember is that the fifth planar, which is a Wali, has no power, or a Pir has no power. But he has the power to control the thoughts of all gross and subtle conscious human being, which includes the Kuber or the Mahayogi on the fourth plane. So whenever the fourth planer, a mischief monger, is trying to think about doing some misuse of powers, immediately the fifth and the sixth planer, and if there's a there is always a perfect master. If his nazar is on that person, they would either bring him down or push him up or withdraw the powers. So that is the mechanics, that on the fourth plane you have terrific powers, and on the fifth plane you have got no powers. Now we are going on to, as a supplement, page number 205. We are doing supplement 205. Supplement no, page number 205. Sorry.
Supplement number 7.
Supplement number 7.
Meher Baba says that if a pilgrim of the mental sphere is in India and conceives the idea of seeing America, simultaneous with a wish on his part, either mentally or physically as he wishes, he will be there.
See, the point is, on the gross world, everything is gross. It requires effort. That's what Baba has said, that his working in the subtle and mental plane is quite easy. But on the gross plane, it is difficult because it is all gross. So here, if a person in India wants to see America, all that he has to do is think, I want to see, I wish I can see America, and he is there. You see, because there is no limitation of the gross body. The mind is everywhere, so he can see and experience America if he wants to just wish and go there.
One may ask how he travels as fast as thought itself. The answer is that the mind is everywhere, and therefore the pilgrim of the mental sphere does not have to travel. He can be anywhere he likes without using his gross or subtle organs. He can know anything and everything about the gross, subtle, and mental spheres as far as the sixth plane, simply by willing to know.
Simply by willing to know. If he wills, I want to know this, he will know, because he is in the domain of the mind. And mind, whenever we say mind, we do the heart and mind. This is not mind. You see, this is brain. Mind is everywhere. That's what Baba is trying to say. There is no restriction. You see, if you really look at it, I just give an example. For example, on the entire earth, there is air. There is air here. There is air in America, Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland, whatever. The air is the same. Maybe a little degree of pollution, non-pollution, but air is air. So in the same way, mind is everywhere. He has to just will that I want to know this, and he will know it. There is no question of, but still at this stage of the fifth and the sixth plane, there is a person who wants to know. There is a process of knowing, the knowingness, and there is an object to be known. So there is still duality. But that does not exist in the seventh plane. When you become one with God, when there is Aham Brahmasmi, I am God, Analhak state, God realization, self-realization, you become knowledge itself. Like once Baba had said, Baba says that when I say I have infinite knowledge, what does it mean? So people around said, oh, it means that you know everything. It means that you know what happened 10,000 years back. And you also know what is going to happen 10,000 years from now. And so many logical answers were given. But Baba then gave a very superb answer. Infinite knowledge means there is nothing to know. There is nothing to know, because if there is something to know, that means I want to know, there is some object to be known, and there is a process of knowingness. You see, I know. But when you become knowledge itself, when you are that, what is there to know? I am that. You see? So that was a very superb answer which Baba had given. Go ahead.
More important still, he can help less advanced souls and also ordinary human beings to come up to his own level of progress.
This is very important. A first, second and third planer may do a little miracle, chamatkar, nokri, chokri, pokri, all that you want, you can go, they'll do it for you. But spiritually, if somebody needs help, then the fifth and the sixth planer can help them spiritually, but only up to the level that they are. They cannot take you anywhere, they cannot take you beyond that. It is only the living perfect master and the avatar, who's the eternal living perfect master, who can help from anybody to any level. They can take you from where we are to where we should be in a moment's time. So that is the difference between the help given by. It's something like this. The example that I often give is, there is a quagmire, what we call as daldal, what we call as kichal, you know. A person is inside, you know. Now the fifth and the sixth planers are also in the daldal, isn't it? They are they are in duality. They are not perfect. So if at all he extends a hand to somebody to bring him towards towards the truth, no doubt he is very close to the truth, but he has not yet become the truth. So how much can he help? He can drag the person up to where he is. But only the perfect masters and the avatar, who's the eternal living perfect master, they are standing on firm ground. They are not in daldal. They are in unity. They are in oneness. They are in dvaita. In Advait, oneness. So they are on firm ground. So they are the only ones who can extend the helping hand and pull you out from the quagmire to the firm ground. So these are the only 5 perfect masters who can help you to become. Not the other, there are 56 God realized souls, but they can't help you to come out of it. It is the job of a perfect master or the avatar.
When he wants to help anyone directly, the pilgrim of the fifth plane can lead an aspirant by the hand along the path.
So by the hand is inverted commas. So it means that he can actively participate in the life of that aspirant and help him to come out.
When he does so, the aspirant himself also perceives internally the continual presence of the master of the mental plane, known to the Sufis as a wali,
As I said, a wali is on the 5th plane. Yeah.
and also feels himself being actually led by him along the path to perfection. Hafiz in the following couplet evidently visualizes the particular sensation of one who is being led in this way.
In a more or less lower degrees, not that high, many of us or most of us would many times feel that we are being led. That I have a different plan, I had something else to do, but somehow, there is some power which is, leading me to go in a certain direction. That means there is some power which is actually leading us towards the goal that way. But this is, as I said, at a very low level. I'm not talking about the planes.
So this is in Persian. Tu dastugu sho ek hizre pe khujasti ki ma piyade miravam o ham rauhan saware aunan.
Now you understood that.
O
I'm not
August
going to
Master.
explain that.
So there's a translation. O August Master, lead me by the hand because I am traversing the path on foot helplessly as compared with other companions who are riding along it.
So this is Hafiz, Diwan of Hafiz, Diwan-e-Hafiz, Diwan of Hafiz. And Baba used to quote Hafiz very frequently. And Baba had said the way in which Hafiz has explained the inner spiritual path, no other perfect master has done. So we will find a lot of quotes from Hafiz in God Speaks.
Generally, however, a Wali Mahapurush helps an aspirant by gazing into his eyes, thereby tearing away the inner veil from the real I within. This spiritual influence of the Wali through sight is known to Sufis as Tawajjuh.
So this is one method by which a Wali, which means a person on the 5th mental plane, can look straight into your physical eye and tear away the curtain which is there in the inner eye. So when the inner eye's curtain is torn away, you start getting glimpses of reality or truth or God. So that system or whatever they In Sufi terminology, it is called
Tawajjuh.
tawajjuh. Okay.
The term tawajjuh does not apply to perfect masters. In their case, the term will is correct, for they can also render this help without the physical contact that is necessary in the case of masters of the planes.
So that is the difference between a wali of the fifth plane, which requires the physical person to be near him in order to see into his eyes and tear the curtain. But a perfect master may be anywhere, miles apart, continents apart. He only has to will it. If he wills it, it gets the inner eyes curtain would be torn aside.
Meher Baba explains that on the fifth plane, the pilgrim sometimes desires to have the divine presence and sometimes attends to worldly duties. In fact, so far as divine presence on the fifth plane is concerned, God is always present. But the pilgrim may not always desire this presence when he turns his attention to worldly duties.
In other words, even a person on the fifth plane is occupied with worldly duties. He is doing worldly duties. He may be doing business. He may be going for job. Just imagine the beauty. But he is not aware. His consciousness is focused on the fifth plane. So Baba says sometimes that person, the wali, may feel the presence of God, but when he is mentally focusing on the worldly duties, at that time he may not feel the presence of God. I remember once Baba was, I suppose it was at the Meherabad Mandli Hall. Baba was sitting, and very rarely he tells people to meditate, the Mandli members, So he was sitting in his darbar, as we say, on his seat, and there were a few Babas Mandali, maybe Eraj, maybe Pendu, Aloba, Francis Brabazon, and say, I want you to do this exercise for just 2 minutes, a few minutes. Close your eyes and bring my image, Baba's image, near your third eye, between the in between the two eyebrows, So just for 2 minutes, they were asked to do. And then afterwards, Baba snapped and said, okay, that's over. Then Baba asked Francis Brabazon. We all know Francis Brabazon. He was a Sufi sheikh. He was a leader, but he sort of disrobed himself and joined Baba as Baba's disciple. He was an Australian. He was a poet. And so he asked Francis, what did you feel? What did you see? So Francis says, Baba, you come and go. You come and go. Baba smiled and said, no. It is you who come and go. I am always there. In other words, the moment we feel that the presence of Baba is not there within us, in us, around us, it means that the presence of ourselves has dominated the presence of Baba. Baba is always there. It's like Baba says when we talk about Baba's grace. Baba says, my grace is always flowing. The moment you are deeply involved with your own self-centeredness, I, my, me, mine, selfishness, poor me, I am not loved, why happening to me only, blah, blah, blah. When that comes, you are demonstrating your lower self. The moment you demonstrate your lower self, I am always there. But that covers up my presence, and that is why you do not feel me. The moment that moment is over, and when you start, the so-called attitude of gratitude, Baba, thank you for being there, thank you. Automatically you will feel his presence. So it is never, ever that he is not there. It is always that he is always there. It is we who come and go.
On the sixth plane, the pilgrim persists in desiring the presence of God 100%.
So on the fifth plane, he may desire God's presence, or when he is focused in the worldly duty, I am talking about the fifth plane, the wali, then he doesn't feel the presence. Yeah. But on the sixth plane, which is the plane of Peer, as we call it, the Peer always desires the presence of the beloved, because he has been endowed with God's love, a gift which is God's love. On the sixth plane,
Finished.
go ahead.
Half is
No, no, did you complete that?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the sixth plane, the pilgrim persists in desiring the presence of God.
100%.
Half is evidently refers to this experience of the fifth plane when he says, Huzuri God Hami Khahi Aizhu Gaib Mash Hafiz. O Hafiz, if you desire the divine presence, then do not allow yourself to be absent.
Do not allow yourself to be absent. If you are absent, then obviously you won't feel the. Alright, so now we go back to page number
48.
48. One minute.
The mental
एक minute. Yeah, 48. Go ahead.
The mental conscious human soul on the fifth plane of consciousness, while identifying himself as inquiring or reflecting mind, emanates only thoughts, does not identify himself with the second state of mind, and is therefore incapable of establishing mastery over feelings, emotions, and desires.
So, very clear. It is my department, my section, thoughts. I am concerned with thoughts, not with feelings, emotions, and desires, which is that of the sixth plane.
However, with greater involution of consciousness, the mental conscious human soul on the fifth plane gains consciousness of the second state of mind of the mental world in the sixth plane, and thus tends to identify himself as that mind in the second state, the impressive or sympathetic mind.
That means it has to do with the feelings.
Thus, the consciousness of the mental conscious human soul has involved sixth plane consciousness of the mental world.
So now from the fifth plane, he has graduated to the sixth plane. Now when he's on the sixth plane, he has everything to do with feelings, and he has lost contact with thoughts. He doesn't know thoughts. He cannot enter into the domain of thoughts, but he can manipulate, control, do whatever, create feelings in all the gross and the subtle conscious human souls throughout the creation.
The mental conscious human soul of sixth plane consciousness experiences the mental world through complete consciousness of feelings, and thus has no thoughts
And
at
thus
all,
has no thoughts at all.
but actually feels that he is conscious of the feeling of seeing God face to face continuously in everything and everywhere.
So that is the experience of the sixth plane, of seeing God in everyone and everything. I'll give you an example. I don't know, I may be blowing my own trumpet, maybe. We all know about Kekobat Dastur, who used to live here with the family behind the Samadhi. This was many years back. And he had a fall and he broke his leg and he was on a wheelchair, and again many years. And so I know Erico, we all know Erico, and myself, we were walking up the hill, and we were sitting next to him, and we were singing, Baba Bhagavan and all that, And all of a sudden he came up with Erico Bhagavan, Cyrus Bhagavan, and actually somehow I felt very uncomfortable with that statement which he made. And I said, Kekobar, Gujarati, Amsu bolo tame, why are you speaking like this? Arre, but I am seeing Bhagwan in you. That is why I am saying it. That means he must be of that caliber. I am not saying about anybody. He must be of that stature where he can only see everyone and everything as God. So that was his. So, and Baba had said that Kekobad repeats my name 100,000 times a day, 1 lakh times a day. And by the by, this is my style. For some spiritual work, Baba had called Kekobad to Meherabad. Kekobad stays in Meherabad, we all know. And some incident happened where one of Kekobat's daughter, I think her name was Meru, if I'm not mistaken. Jalu and Gulu we knew. Meru. She got burned in a kitchen fire and she died. And she died. And news came to Meherabad. But Kekobat did not come. Kekobat did not come to see her dead daughter, his dead daughter. He was busy with Baba. And when after a little while, when Baba and Kekobat and everybody came, just see the whatever the stature of Kekobat's wife. I forgot the name. I don't remember the name. She says, Baba, I was so concerned that Kekobat should not leave your work and run and come to Meherabad to be with her dead daughter. To be, in other words, see the level of love, commitment, obedience, that she was concerned that he should not leave Baba and come. Okay, the daughter is dead, that's over with. But he should not disturb Baba and come over here. So that is the level of obedience and concern for Baba and his activities. Another incident that comes to our mind, we all know Sridhar Kelkar. His wife Parveez Kelkar was very close to us, very, very close to us. And she used to talk sometimes, and she had stayed also with us in our home, again, many years back. There was a time when Baba was in Guru Prasad in Pune, and Baba had given strict instructions that Baba lovers should not come and meet him because he was in his spiritual work. We call it universal work, inner spiritual work. And Parveez happened to be in Pune at that time, and there were many families, I suppose they were Parsi families, who went and met Baba, and Baba was okay with that. He did not make a show that why did you disobey me and all that. But Parveez stood her ground and said, no, these are Baba's. Many, hum log bhi jaake aaye, we also went, go and meet. No, you got an opportunity to have Baba's darshan. Why do you miss out? She said, no, I will not go because these are Baba's orders. I will not go. If Baba wants me to come, let him call me. I'll go. So she did not go. After a few months, years, next time when Baba was giving darshan and Parveez was there, Baba remembered. Baba said, you have no idea, to Parveez, you have no idea how much you have pleased me and how much you have helped me in my universal work by not coming to meet me when I had given the orders not to come and meet me. So you can imagine that there we have people of that caliber where they are so staunch about following Baba's instructions. Go ahead. Have I finished explaining? I don't even know where are we.
Yeah.
48 you said, no?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Wait,
The mental con.
So there was an asterisk. This is
Oh,
not-
there's an asterisk. Okay.
Yeah. He sees God. So here, he sees God continuously, but
Huh.
therefore, he cannot reconcile his feeling of sight of God with his own identity with God, and thus he longs for, feels for, has pangs for union with God, whom he sees face to face.
That means he's seeing face to face God. He sees the beauty of God everywhere. He sees it is God only. And he's longing to become one with him. But even then he's not getting there. And Baba, that's what Baba says, that at that very fag end of the journey, it should be not my will, but thine. Only when you offer that longing also to Baba, that because longing ultimately is selfish. It is self-centered. There's a small I saying, I want to become one with God. When you leave it to Baba and say, Baba, it's your wish, that is when the miracle takes place.
This identification with the second state of mind, feeling, is the predominant aspect of divine love, which ultimately leads to union with God. This is an asterisk.
Yeah.
He sees.
Yeah. So that is
sees
the meaning of divine love. We talk about love, love, love. It is all selfishness, it is all infatuation, devotion, whatever else it may be. But that love is very unique and it cannot be created, gained. No amount of penance or austerities can give you that. It is only a gift which is given by God. Yeah, go ahead. So there's an asterisk.
sees,
Have
yeah,
you
that's what
read
I'm
this?
saying.
Ah.
This is when you read,
Hmm.
he sees God continuously. The asterisk is this is not to be confused with our ordinary way of seeing an object with our ordinary eyes. To see God face to face is to apprehend God through the one and only sense of the mental plane, and this sense is of seeing. Here, the pilgrim has the intuitive recognition of God.
So Baba is explaining earlier also he has the feeling because he is only feeling now. He has no thoughts. He has no power. He has no gross consciousness. He has the feeling of seeing God in everyone and everything and everywhere. So not to be confused with the ordinary seeing that we say that way. It's
The
an intuitive recognition of God. What that is, only if and when we reach there, we'll be able to make out what is that.
The fifth plane of the mental world is the state of full consciousness of thought. Hence, only mastery over the control and creation of thoughts is established, whereas no mastery nor control over feelings or emotions and desires
So
is
we have done
established.
this, that the fifth plane, only thoughts, no feelings, no desires, no emotion. On the sixth plane, only feelings, no thoughts. Go ahead.
The sixth plane of the mental world is the state of full consciousness of feeling, and thus mastery over the control and creation of feelings is established, and no more scope is left for even a single thought to penetrate into the domain of feelings.
And no more scope is left for even a single thought to penetrate into the domain of feelings. He can not only he can control the feeling, he can create the feeling, and through that control, automatically he controls the lower planes, people of the subtle world and the gross world, if he wants to.
The sixth plane consciousness is thoughtless
Thoughtless.
and governs the feelings of the gross and subtle conscious souls. This is often misinterpreted as mastery over the hearts of all gross and subtle conscious souls.
The feeling aspect, we call it the heart, and the thinking aspect, we call it the mind. But they are both in the mental world, but they are very, very distinct and partitioned, so to speak, functionality.
A soul with sixth plane consciousness does not govern or regulate the so called heart, but controls and governs that state of mind in the mental plane which emanates feelings of emotion and desires. The loving of God and the longing for His union is really and fully demonstrated in the sixth plane, when even the sixth plane of the mental world is transcended. Illusion vanishes and God is realized.
The loving of God and the longing for His union is really and fully demonstrated in the sixth plane. See, Baba talks about that we should create longing, but that is fully demonstrated in the sixth plane. We can create at our lower level of longing, wanting to be with God, thinking about God all the time, asking Him to participate in what we are doing. Before starting anything, we think about Him and say, Baba, it is you who's doing through me. After the whole show is over, you offer it to Baba. Baba, it is yours. I've got nothing to do. We do it in our way. Baba, you take over. Baba, you take charge. Baba, I can't handle this. This is my weakness. This is my, shortcoming. I can't handle. Baba, I offer it to you. You do it. So these are our level. But Baba says that it is only on the sixth plane that it is really fully demonstrated what is real longing for union with God. And once you transcend that, then what remains is realization.
In the human form, when the soul is mental conscious, there's an asterisk. See also Meher Baba, Mental Consciousness, the Everything and the Nothing, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
I sometimes feel we should go through those books also. Anyway, let's see.
It is unconscious of the gross body and the subtle body, but it does work through the gross and subtle bodies, not directly, but on the mental plane.
No, this is, I've been repeating this, that a person, I'll repeat again, on the gross plane, which I assume we all are on the gross plane, use the energy of the subtle sphere and the mind on the mental sphere, not directly, but indirectly and unconsciously. We don't know how I am getting energy from where, what, and mind. Similarly, a person on the subtle sphere will use the grossness, the body, as I said, eating, drinking, sleeping, and the mind of the of the mental world indirectly and unconsciously. Similarly, a person in the mental world will use the gross world and the subtle world, that means the actions on the gross and the energy of the subtle, indirectly, not directly, indirectly and unknowingly. So this is how it functions. Wherever your predominance of samskaras or impressions are there, that is the sphere in which our consciousness is focused. Right now, my impressions are sthul, gross, crude, and therefore my entire being is focused in the gross. Person on the subtle world, he's sorry? Yeah, okay. And I am responsible for the gross. Correct, thank you. A person in the subtle sphere has nothing to do with the gross. He is already, graduated, so to speak. He has come above gross. He is responsible for the use of energy, urja, in the subtle world. He is not responsible for the thoughts and the feelings that you get, for a simple reason that you are not in the domain of thoughts and feeling. Very important to understand, many of us beat ourselves up with nice thick bata ka jhuta. You know why? Because I got some dirty feelings, some vulgar thoughts, some sinful blah blah blah. Baba says, let them come, let them go, be a witness to it, don't put it into action, then nothing will happen. On the contrary, it is good that you get bad thoughts, because in that way the energy which is locked up in those thoughts is being discharged like a battery discharged, and you are not taking any action on it, so it is not being recharged. But if you involve yourself with those thoughts, instead of being a witness, last time, sometime back, I had said, we invite thoughts or we play around with thoughts, then there will be what you can call as mental samskaras are being accumulated. But if it comes and goes, let it come, let it go, without fighting it, without putting your energy into it, without resisting it, just be a witness to it, then that's a good thing. It is coming and going. It is reducing in its intensity, in its vibrancy, in its force. So what is important for us in the gross world is to have control over our physical actions, because that is where we are accountable and answerable, and not for the thoughts and the feelings which we may get, which are nothing but a reflection of the impressions or samskaras which are embedded in our mental body. I hope I am clear. Yes, Naman. Take a mic now, so that people on the, you have an active mic? No? Okay. I'll repeat your question. No, that's what I'm saying. No, it is not good to linger, because the more you linger, you are creating mental samskaras. So that is why, see, there are two things. One is, all of a sudden, unasked for, a thought or a feeling or an emotion has come. You are not asked. That is okay. That is natural. Why it is natural? Because it's something like there is a fire and smoke is natural. You don't have to go to the smoke and breathe in smoke. You don't have to go there, isn't it? It is natural. It's coming and going. Don't bother about it. It will come and go. That is one thing which is positive. Baba says it is positive. On the other hand, you invite thoughts. I've got nothing to do now, I'm feeling bored. So you invite some thoughts, once upon a time thoughts, which is supposedly hurting you and harming you, which is wrong, negative, blah, blah, blah. you invite. And then you play around, you say lingering, you play around with it. That creates mental samskara. Sometimes the thoughts are coming, they are going. Are kidhar jata hai? Come, where you are going? Come, let's have chai together. We'll have tea and breakfast. So that is, you are neither inviting, but you are actually encouraging to come and bother you. So this is my interpretation of what Baba says in the discourses, that it's okay to have not so good thoughts or bad thoughts. Just let it come, let it go. Be a spectator, be a witness, Shakshi Bhav as we call it. Let them come, let them go. It won't harm you. It is like thoughts are passing over, but don't allow them to build a nest in your hair. You have very little hair, so don't worry. It won't build nest. So that is very important, that we do not invite, we do not entertain, we do not play around with that. Let it come, let it go. But don't linger only. Why do you want to go up to the action? Okay. No, you are not human, you are divine with a human body. We all are divine with just a human framework, That, yeah, correct, I agree. Action, correct. And even, now I am saying, even if you put it into action, even if you do it, I am just transgressing my authority, offer it to Baba. Before putting into action, say, Baba, I just cannot control myself. I am very sorry. Please take charge. Please take over. Take care of me. If I blunder, I will offer it to you. Baba has said this. Baba's words, even if you do something wrong, offer it to me. Baba's words. It doesn't mean that we should do wrong because Baba is going to forgive us, I remember several years back, Aloba, we all know Aloba ji. He had come to our center and somebody asked a similar question. Okay, how many times Baba is going to forgive us, And he said, as many times as you falter or fall, he is there to forgive you and he is there to pick you up. He never condemns. He only extends a loving, fatherly hand and says, come on, beta, come on, let's forget about the past. But to do something wrong knowingly and consciously, depending on the forgiveness of God, that God will forgive, so let me indulge, is not done, is not a good thing. He never said don't do it, is not a good thing. I remember, I'm sure you all have, or some of you may have read Conversations with the Awakener. We have a whole series, Somya and I did all the 4 books on the Zoom session. You are welcome to attend the Meherabad Bombay Center's Facebook page, and it's excellent book, excellent. 4 books, Conversations with the Awakener, More Conversations with the Awakener, Intimate Conversations with the Awakener, Flowing Conversations with the Awakener. The very first book, the very first chapter, the very first line, words to the effect, paraphrasing, where Balnatu was Baba's disciple. And the beauty of this book is there's nowhere in the entire book Meher Baba's name is mentioned. He's the awakener, because Meher Baba says, I have come not to teach but to awaken. So he is asking, what is that sin which you are unable to forgive? I'm paraphrasing. And the answer comes from our divine beloved awakener. He says, since the time of creation, no man has committed such a sin that I am unable to forgive. What a powerful message, Since the time of creation. So that is the benevolence, that is the mercy, that is the beauty of our Lord. He only forgives. There's never a time when He will not forgive. But that does not mean that because it is go against us if we keep on faltering and just depending upon His forgiveness, we don't want to improve. That should not be the case. You got your answer?
So,
Okay.
even in the mental conscious human soul is unconscious of the gross. So, even if the mental conscious human soul is unconscious of the gross body and the subtle body, and therefore does not realize the gross and subtle worlds, he can unconsciously utilize the gross through various aspects of the gross and is thus seen eating, drinking, sleeping, seeing, hearing, and feeling as an ordinary gross conscious human being, though he is all the while conscious only of the mental world with his mental sense of seeing. Similarly,
His consciousness is in the mental world with his mental sense of seeing, because he is seeing everywhere God. Although he appears to do everything that a normal gross conscious human being does.
Similarly, he can unconsciously utilize the subtle through various gross aspects of energy in the form of nuclear energies, etc., while all the time being only conscious of seeing with his mental sense. The mental conscious human soul in the mental world has now only one sense, and that is of
Seeing.
seeing.
The sense of, we have five gross senses. Of course, this seeing is not seeing with this eye, it is with the third eye. We have done this earlier, that as you progress in the involutionary journey on the first, second plane, you lose your two senses, and that is the sense of touch and the sense of taste in the subtle, in the first plane. And then on the second and third, you lose your, sorry, your hearing and, what did the other say? Smell. Hearing and smell, you lose that, and only the sight remains right up to the end, which is the sixth plane.
So, this mental conscious human soul on the fifth plane experiences the first state of the mental world with the mental body or the mind and gains consciousness of the first state of mind.
This may tend to be repetitive, but that's fine with us. That is the style Baba has written. And as I said in the very first session, that he adds a little bit every time he repeats. He's adding that. So that is a good thing, that you keep repeating also, and there's a little slight addition.
Here, the soul is capable of controlling the first state of mind, that is, thoughts of the gross conscious and subtle conscious human souls, but is now totally incapable of performing any miracles because of its total unconsciousness of the infinite energy of the subtle world and its powers.
See, that's what we said. That now, although he has now gone further from fourth to the fifth plane, but he is totally incapable of performing any miracles because he is unconscious of the energy world, which is on the first, second, and third and fourth plane.
However, as this mental conscious human soul controls the first state of mind of the subtle conscious human souls, the incitement in the subtle conscious human soul to perform miracles is checked.
Incitement means the goading into action. That fourth planar, Mahayogi or Kube, he's so incited, he's so goaded, he's so enthused, he wants to use his power. That's that incitement. But the fifth planar is checking his thoughts.
Is checked, controlled, or aggravated according to the desire and will of the mind of the mental conscious human soul, who is capable of creating and controlling thoughts of other minds and is himself stable and can never again slide down to any lower level of consciousness.
So the fifth plane is a safe plane. Fifth and sixth, of course. There is no chance of sliding down. The only chance, we had done this earlier, that once the human consciousness is whole and complete in the first human form, there is no regression or retrogressive consciousness. In other words, once you are born a human being, you are not going to be born as a dog or a donkey or a horse or cat or a mouse or something later on. It's always progressive. The only exception to this rule is the fourth plane, where if you misuse, then your entire consciousness disintegrates. It is smashed, and then you go back and start from the stone stage. And the beauty of it is that that particular soul who has taken millions of years to come up to such a high level of fourth plane of consciousness does not even remember, does not even have a memory that once I was such a high, at such a high level. Right.
Gradually,
So there is no question of sliding down after the fifth plane is gained.
gradually, as the involution of the consciousness of the mental conscious human soul progresses deeper and deeper, he experiences mastery over the second state of mind, that is feeling, and he now becomes fully conscious of the mind or the mental body and experiences the whole of the mental body on the sixth plane. This experience is of seeing God face to face, seeing God everywhere and in everything. There's a supplement.
Okay. That is 206 page number. We are going to 206 page. So now a
Supplement.
person on the sixth plane is the master of the mind. He. Okay. 206. Okay.
Supplement number 8.
Yeah. Supplement number 8.
The sixth plane. The traveler who succeeds in reaching this plane is entitled to be called a Peer or Satpurush.
See, on the fifth plane, we call him Sufi terminology Wali, or we call him from Vedantic term Mahapurush. And here he is called a Peer or a Satpurush. Somewhere Baba was asked who is a saint. A one who sees Sat. Sat is the truth. Truth is reality. Reality is God. So Satpurush is one who is able to see Sat. Yeah, what happened? Joyce? Go ahead.
There is no adequate translation of these words in English. The word saint would perhaps do, but it suffers from the handicap of very loose usage. Hafiz remembers this sixth plane in the following words: Maadar, Piale, Oxe, Ruke Yar, Didaim, E Bikhabar, Ze Lazate, Shorbe, Mudame, Moa. We have seen the face of the beloved reflected in the cup of a mind or heart. O ignorant one, no notion have you of the bliss that we imbibe therefrom.
Thanks to Rakesh Acharya, we have done the entire reading of God Speaks as an audio book, audio file. You can contact him and take a pen drive or a CD or whatever it is. And when it came to these Persian words and so many Urdu words and Persian one, he took the trouble of calling a Persian guy from Meherabad to Mumbai. And when we did the recording in the studio, that gentleman very beautifully, in the correct pronunciation, what we are saying may not be correct, but then, so if somebody is interested, they can always take it from Rakesh. Yeah, go ahead. That's over, huh? Okay. I'll just read out the English version. We have seen the face of the beloved reflected in the cup of our mind or heart. O ignorant one, no notion have you of the bliss that we imbibe therefrom. So that is the translation.
Right.
We again go back to page number,
50.
sorry, 50. We go back to page 50.
Right from the first plane up through the sixth plane, the involution of consciousness progressed gradually and steadily as the consciousness of the soul had less and less frequent experiences of multifarious and diverse opposite impressions, which grew fainter and fainter.
Elsewhere, Baba had given the example of a pendulum, of a clock, Said in the gross world, the pendulum swings far, like this. It goes to one extreme and then takes a U-turn and again goes to the other, and that is how it. As our sanskaras become fainter and fainter, lighter and lighter, thinner and thinner. It gradually goes less and less. The pendulum is not so wide, it goes less and less. So here Baba says that consciousness of the soul had less and less frequent experiences of multifarious and diverse opposite impressions. So if the impressions are very diverse, then the pendulum goes swings like this, which grew fainter and fainter. And then that comes a point where it is steady. Where it is steady, it means there is no chabi. The clock doesn't have any winding of what we call the key. So that means it is now stationary. That means it has exhausted and experienced and expanded all the impressions and samskaras that were there in the gross, subtle and mental world. And that is the time when you reach the Aham Brahmasmi state.
Therefore, while the involution of the soul's consciousness was in progress, the diverse opposite impressions became gradually scarcer and fainter until the involved consciousness of the soul on the sixth plane is fully conscious of the mental body and experiences the mental world in full with practically no impressions at all except a faint last trace of residual impressions of opposites.
So the opposite becomes fainter and lighter and thinner, not very aggressive, very, very small. And the last residual of the impression, elsewhere Baba says, is the third eye or the inner eye.
That is, the involved consciousness fully identifies with mind, and the soul tends to realize that he is mind, and this soul as mind has a last and total impression that he sees God face to face in everything, but he cannot see himself in God.
Sometimes we also say that he is an illumined, so illumination. Illumination is what? When the mind sees the soul or mind sees God. And realization is when the mind merges with the soul, or manonas, there is no mind, it's all one. So these are the various levels of what you can say of experiencing the understanding. The basic being instincts, we call it instinct, that is there in the animals. And then we have intellect, which is there in the human being. And then as we go on, there is what is called, inspiration, intuition, insight, illumination, realization. So that is how it goes. Inspiration generally is on the first and the second plane. The intuition is as you go further. The insight is you see sight. On the fifth and the sixth plane you see sight. On the fifth plane also you are able to see God, but it's very dhundla, as we say, blurred. There's no this thing. And on the sixth plane you see God everywhere and everything, much better than what we see the gross world. You know, actually they have a feeling of seeing God in everyone and everything.
This mental conscious human soul of the sixth plane, almost void of all, I hope I did that, void of impressions and only conscious of
Almost void.
almost void of all impressions and only conscious of mind, now is confronted with God face to face and sees God in everything, but does not see himself in God because, being still conscious of mind, he takes himself as mind.
So now he is identifying himself as mind, which is, mind is not, mind is Brahm, mind is an illusion. You see, so because he is identifying himself with the mind, there is still, that he is still in the domain of duality. I identify myself with the body. The people on the subtle plane will identify himself as energy. People on the fifth plane will identify himself as thoughts, and people on the sixth plane identify himself with feelings, which are the domain of the mind. But still he is not identifying himself as God and in God.
there's impression, there is an
Okay, there's
asterisk.
an asterisk. Okay.
Like an aching tooth that gradually works loose but does not fall out for a long time. The false ego remains until the last stage of the first spiritual journey, although it becomes increasingly faint as the soul advances on the path, only to vanish forever in the final fana of the seventh plane, to be replaced by the unlimited real ego.
In the very first session, we had expressed that ego, because somebody said that, oh, ego is wrong and is not good. I said, ego is the real thing. Ego can never be annihilated. Ego can only be transformed from the false ego to the real ego. What needs to be eliminated and annihilated is the mind, which is the crucible, you can say, of thoughts, feelings, emotions, and all the actions that we have done, the karmas and the samskaras. So here Baba say, originally there is one ego in the beyond state, that is the natural ego. You can say the original ego, the normal ego, where God is, but consciousness is not. That is the original ego, right? Now in that, it is the very same state that we go into every single day of our life when we experience the sound sleep state. When we are in sound sleep state or deep sleep state, I am not talking about the REM, I am not talking about the dream. At that time, we are actually one with God in the beyond state, which is the Parat Par Brahma state or Vara Ul Vara state, first state. And then the creation started. And when the creation started, what started was the mind, which is the false ego. I am gases, I am stone, I am metal, I am mineral, I am vegetable, I am worms, fish, bird, animal, and I am human being. All this is the false ego. And this false ego lingers, Baba says, like a loose tooth, which is shaking but not coming out, till the sixth plane of consciousness. So now from the 6 to the 7 when you go, what happens is the false ego, or it is also called the ego mind. The mind is gone now, so it converts or transforms itself into the real ego. So here what Baba says as an asterisk is like an aching tooth that gradually works loose but does not fall out for a long time. The false ego remains until the last stage of the first spiritual journey. There are the 4 journeys which we'll do it when we come to it. This is the first journey. Last stage of the first spiritual journey, although it becomes increasingly faint as the soul advances on the path, only to vanish forever in the final fana of the 7th plane, to be replaced by the unlimited real ego. So we must understand that ego is not false, ego is not wrong, ego is not a creation of Maya, ego is a reality. Only thing is that we mix up false ego with the real ego. The ego mind is false, but ego is real. So it transforms itself into the real ego.
This mental conscious human soul associates himself with mind and is conscious of himself as mind and experiences himself as still something other than God. This mental conscious human soul on the 6th plane actually sees God face to face more vividly and intensely than the gross or subtle conscious human soul sees objects of the gross or subtle
That
worlds.
means the seeing of God on the 6th plane of consciousness, who is called a Pir or a Satpurush, is more vivid and intensive as compared to what we on the gross plane, what we call as seeing, or those on the subtle world, in the subtle world, sees the energy. So it is so much vivid and so much more clearer.
At this stage of consciousness of the soul, which had experienced diverse, innumerable, and opposite impressions, now experiences the last trace of dual impressions of the opposites. This mental conscious human soul on the 6th plane is still conscious of duality,
That means he's still in duality, he's still in dui.
identifying himself as mind and differentiating himself from God.
Page 207 again, which is a supplement,
Number
207, supplement number 9. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Gnosis of the sixth plane.
Gnosis means irfan or inner knowledge or knowledge of the inner path.
Concerning the gnosis of the sixth plane, Meher Baba tells us only God exists, and if anything exists due to ignorance, its reality is illusory. It then exists as God's shadow, which means that God is both in the stage of knowledge and ignorance.
That means we started with the prayer that nothing is real but God. Nothing matters but love for God. God is the only reality, all else that seems real is illusory. And God and I are one, Meher Baba. So here Baba says that God exists and He is the only reality. Anything other than God which is existing is God's shadow. That means God's existence is compared to knowledge and the shadow is compared to ignorance. The shadow exists. There is no doubt that it is existing in the domain of non-existence, so to speak. So here Baba says, I'll repeat this. Only God exists. And if anything exists due to ignorance, everything else is existing due to ignorance, its reality is illusory. It then exists as God's shadow. The creation itself is God's shadow. So everything that we are acquainted with, which we call knowledge, is the knowledge of ignorance, in a sense. Which means that God is both in the stage of knowledge as well as ignorance. The
following four angles of the one experience, written in the language of Sufi Gnosis, are different aspects of Gnosis of souls in the sixth plane when they are face to face with God, but still in the domain of duality. All of these aspects are experienced together at the same time.
So these are different angles with which the person on the sixth plane would view his existence vis-a-vis God.
Hamaust. This means everything is He. And for one who experiences this gnosis, only God exists. Hamma as ust. This means everything is from Him. And for one who experiences this gnosis, all phenomena, diversities, and manyness exist as illusion when ignorance prevails. Hama ba ust. This means everything is with Him. And for one who experiences this gnosis, God is both attributeless and with attributes. His attributes are unlimited when knowledge prevails and limited when ignorance prevails. Body, mind, and the three worlds do not exist. But if they seem to exist, they exist as shadows. Hamad dar ust. This means everything is in Him. And for one experiencing this gnosis, even ignorance has no reality in itself. Its existence, when expressed, comes out of God's unconscious and infinite knowledge, and so whatever exists in duality due to ignorance has come out of God where it everlastingly existed.
So these are the various gnosis of the sixth planar. One is everything is He, everything is from Him, everything is with Him, and everything is in Him. And then the explanation goes. Now once again we go back to
Page 51.
the main text, which is page number
51.
51. Page 51. Go ahead. Sorry?
Seventh plane.
Oh, seventh plane. Wow. Let us complete seventh plane.
This experience of duality lingers on and on until the final involution of consciousness of the mental conscious human soul leads the soul to dissociate itself from the mind. The consciousness of the mind had objectified God.
See, the consciousness of the mind had objectified God. That means there is a subjective human being who is seeing the objective God in everyone and everything. That means there is a duality. That means there is no unity or reality, oneness, right?
And makes the soul associate itself with its own self, the soul or Atma. Thus, the consciousness of the soul is now said to experience at last the consciousness of the seventh plane. Here, on the seventh plane, the self conscious human soul is conscious of himself as God and experiences infinite power, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss.
So, what is the Baba had said elsewhere, except for the experience of God realization, which is that on the seventh plane, all other experiences, howsoever beautiful, howsoever lofty, howsoever enchanting, howsoever whatever, are in the domain of illusion, and they have no importance in spirituality. The point is, many of us, I've heard many people saying that, oh, when I sit in meditation, I get some lights coming, or I smell something, I hear something, they are good. We don't need to aggrandize that, but they are in the domain of illusion. They are in the domain of non-reality. And if at all we want to give importance to it, if at all, it should be, how can I transcend these experiences? That means go over these experiences and experience myself as God. If that is the aim behind experience, then it's fine. But most people get stuck up. If I were to get, let us say, if I'm sitting and I'm closing my eyes and I'm seeing all kinds of circles and things happening and hearing, and if one fine day I stop getting that, I get very depressed. Oh my God, whatever, I've gone down or I've stumbled. No. Even in Baba's early disciples, especially Western disciples, some of them used to get these experiences, and Baba would dissuade them from giving too much of importance to these things. Okay, just if it comes, just let it come, let it go. And when it went away, they were very disheartened that, oh my God, I have lost that. We tend to get attached to those experiences, and we tend to play with those experiences as children play with toys. And when the toy is taken away, you feel very, traumatic, and how is it that it is given? And then Baba would console in his own inimitable way. He's such a smart person. He says, don't worry, now you have overgrown, now you are going to get better experiences. So let those experiences go, you'll get something better later on.
For the mental conscious human soul to cross the sixth plane and experience the seventh plane by his own efforts is quite impossible. There's an asterisk. However, those in the sixth plane of consciousness realize God at the time of dropping their body.
So this is an extremely important asterisk mark, that those on the sixth plane of consciousness, they have already gone up to the sixth plane. You see, they normally get God realization at the point of dropping their bodies. That means if you have reached the sixth plane, be assured that you will experience God realization in the human form. We all know God realization or self-realization is to be had while in the physical body. And the experience, even if it is for a split second, infinite power, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss. Not after the body is dropped. Nothing happens after the body is dropped. You can get liberated, but that's a different thing. We won't talk about that right now. So here Baba says that it is impossible to get God realization all by our own effort. You need the active help and participation of a living perfect master, or the avatar who's the eternal living perfect master. But if you do not get that, then at the point of dropping your body, you get God realization.
There is a supplement.
Okay, there's a supplement once
Shall
again.
read the 4
We
pages,
have to
4
go
lines.
to.
At this stage,
Okay.
the grace of a perfect master is absolutely essential to help the mental conscious human soul to dissociate himself from the consciousness of mind and to make him realize his unity with the infinite state, to experience infinite bliss consciously, and to realize that he, Atma, was eternally in bliss.
All right. So now we have a paragraph and we'll complete that because it's nearing 6. So here, when the experience of God realization comes, the experience is that all that you have so-called gone through was just a film show, a drama. It was all a shadow. It never happened. You always were, are, and ever will remain God. So that is the experience. The 7th plane.
The supplement number 10, the 7th plane, it should be understood that at the moment of being merged into the 7th plane, all links with the gross, subtle, and mental bodies and with the universe are necessarily snapped.
All links which were in the domain of illusion are all snapped, cut off.
In ordinary gross existence, there is no parallel to the snapping of these long enduring vital connections that bind the individual to his 3 bodies and to the universe.
We have got 3 bodies: gross, subtle, mental.
Physical, physical death is, by comparison, an insignificant thing, about as significant as the snapping of a piece of string. Ordinarily, at the instant of death, the subtle body and the vital force are separated completely from the gross body. But the mind maintains the connection with the gross body for the first 4 days after death and to a slighter degree for 7 days more after that. In the final annihilation, fana, however, the separation is not between body and mind. It is the actual annihilation of mind and of all nuks-e-amal.
Amal. All right.
Nukush-e-amal.
Nukush. Okay. Now here what Baba is trying to say, that an ordinary death, we say, is also snapping. But what is snapped is the gross aspect, but the subtle aspect and the mental aspect continue to remain alive and active and functioning in the semi-subtle world or the astral world, experiencing the prepondering, the heavier of the 2 aspects of life, which is the so-called good samskaras or bad samskaras, and we have an active, accentuated mental experience of heaven or hell state. It is a mental experience. It's not a locale. It's not a place. But this, when this happens on the 7th plane, there is an actual snapping. There is no question of mind continuing. Manonash, annihilation of the mind. The mind is totally and completely annihilated. Whereas in the ordinary death, the mind continues its journey with the energy form, and then we keep on reincarnating in the physical body. So I'll just read out the last paragraph before we close. It should be understood that at the moment of being merged into the 7th plane, all links with gross, subtle and mental bodies and with the universe are necessarily snapped. In ordinary gross existence, there is no parallel to this snapping of these long enduring vital connections that bind the individual to his 3 bodies and to the universe. There is no comparison, because here the universe continues, the bodies continue, not the gross, but a subtle body continues, the mental body continues, and we keep taking gross bodies. Physical death is, by comparison, an insignificant thing, about as insignificant as the snapping of a piece of string. It is so insignificant. Ordinarily, at the instant of death, the subtle body and vital force are separated completely from the gross body. That means the energy body and the mental body are separated, and the gross body is separated. But the mind maintains the connection with the gross body for the first 4 days after death, and that is why in most of the religions we have the 4 days ceremonies, which by prayers and all that you tend the soul to dissociate. The soul gets to know that I am no more the body, and it dissociates and goes on its onward journey in the astral world to experience the state of heaven or hell. But the mind maintains the connection with the gross body for the first 4 days after death, and to a slighter degree for 7 days
Days
more.
more after
That
that.
means about we have this Barvi, Tervi, we have this function on the 11th day, 12th day, 13th day. That is the final snapping of the soul's connection with the gross. Thereafter, the soul has nothing to do with this universe, with this gross world. And elsewhere, Baba had said that no amount of ceremonies or rituals are going to help that particular soul. For 7 more days after that, in the final annihilation, which is called Fana, we'll come to Fana, Fana Fila, Baka, Baka Bila later on. In the final annihilation, Fana, however, the separation is not between body and mind. It is the actual annihilation of the mind. The mind is totally annihilated of the mind and of all nukush e amal, which means samskaras. That means now there are no samskaras, and the person has become one with God and experiences one with God. Any questions?
Thank you, Baba.
So thank you, Baba. I so happy that we have reached all seventh plane of consciousness, and now tomorrow I don't know where we are going to be. Tomorrow we are meeting here at 4:30 again, Baba willing. And thank you, Baba. Thanks to all of you. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Jai Baba. Thank you, Baba. Thank you, Baba.